Welcome to episode 7 of the Beyond podcast, where we have conversations with people who we find inspiring, who might inspire you too. Special guest for today's episode is Jose. Jose is currently a third-year UC Berkeley student studying sociology and media studies. He currently serves a number of roles as part of the La Unida Latina Lambda Upsilon Lambda fraternity as the marketing director, social media manager, and manager. Previously, during his summers, he has served as a USC Trio Upward Bound Math and Science academic mentor and as a University of Southern California residential advisor, where he helped 100 plus students navigate the complexity of college, as well as help students find academic success at college. Previously, he had worked as a student assistant for UC Berkeley, where he helped balance the budget for a residence hall, as well as help coordinate and resolve 300 plus maintenance issues, 900 plus equipment replacement requests, and 300 plus damaged inventory cases. Welcome, Jose. How's it going?
Hi there, Ethan. Thank you for having me. It's going pretty well. How are you?
Doing well. Jose and I met during our first semester of freshman year in our Greek Civ class. Kind of crazy to look back like 2 years ago, but it was like me, you, Taz, and Matt. And I was like our little like study group or like friend group in freshman year. And that was like super, super fun, I guess, learning Greek Civ together. But yeah, since then you've done like a number of things that are super cool. I guess let's start with going into Berkeley. I know you have had like a really interesting background and also a really great journey to Berkeley. Could you walk me through, I guess, like what motivated you to apply and eventually attend Berkeley as a full ride student?
Yeah, of course. First off, let's backtrack a little bit. I can't believe it's already been 2 years since.
It's insane.
Yeah. I remember we'd get lunch every single time after class on Tuesdays.
At Croads. Yeah, at Crossroads.
Yeah. Yeah. My journey, my background. I identify as a Guatemalan American. My mother is an immigrant from Guatemala. And my father's not in the picture, but I am also half Mexican. A little bit about my background. I was raised by a single mother. She raised 6 kids, and I think she did an amazing job. All her kids, we're all great. My sister went to UCLA, one of them went to Cal State LA, and I'm finishing it off with UC Berkeley. It's getting tougher and tougher. I didn't realize how tough it would be, but I'm managing. My background. I remember when I was a senior in high school, actually a freshman, I remember I knew I wanted to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. The concept of like I have time was very overwhelming in my head because the time I was heading to the finish line of high school. To me, at that point, I felt like I ran out of time. So by senior year, I just went with the flow. I applied to the schools that I know I kind of qualified for, but under every single school, I applied as undeclared because I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted. And it'll be funny in a bit when I continue. I applied to 10 schools. Out of the 10, I was only accepted to 4, which is very, very odd in my opinion, because I was a very well-rounded student in high school. And I was a little bit devastated because I was rejected from my dream school, which was Irvine, UC Irvine. I wanted to pursue pre-med at Irvine because I remember
interesting.
Yeah, I've been at Irvine, I think, once every year in high school. So for 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, and 12th. And I just heard amazing things about their medical school program. And to think I was STEM back then, which is funny now because I'm not STEM right now. Then I remembered I was accepted into Cal State LA, which is funny, by the way. I live like a 5-minute drive, 15-minute walk from Cal State LA. So I was essentially going to stay home and continue my studies here, stay with my mom for a bit. Mm-hmm. Then I got the very odd way of being accepted to a school, which was through financial aid. I received an email, I remember, on March 23rd, 2018.
Wow, you remember an exact date.
Yeah, because it was odd. It was incredibly odd. I got an email from financial aid telling me that I was accepted to the University of California, Berkeley. And I was like, what the heck? This is an odd way. But I guess like an acceptance is better than a rejection in any way possible,
100%.
in my opinion. 15 minutes later, I got an email from the same email link from financial aid to disregard my acceptance because this was sent by mistake.
What?
Yeah, I don't even know if I told you that story. Did I tell you that story, Ethan?
I don't think you have. That's crazy. That's so scary, especially as like a high school senior. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that happening, and I'm like, I disregarded it because Cal State LA was still on my mind. It was my safety school, was my only option, and then probably 4 or 5 days later, I got my letter in the mail saying that I was accepted to Berkeley. I didn't tell anybody. I think I was one of 4 or one of 3 students from my high school to get accepted to Berkeley, but I was recognized the next morning when I was accepted. Apparently, like the university told my high school, and then
they announced it.
They announced it. I was like, what the heck? I didn't say anything. I was praised throughout the day, but then my financial aid packet came the next day. And it was crazy numbers that I saw because I don't come from a very well-structured financial background. We lived off of food stamps. We lived in government housing. And it was embarrassing to tell a lot of my friends, because a lot of them didn't understand where I came from. And then when I saw my net difference of how much I had to pay every single year for Berkeley, it was almost up to $12,000 a year. I'm like, I can't go. Cal State LA offered me a full ride. That's like any kid's dream to like go into college debt free. So I took that to heart. I'm like, I can't afford Berkeley. And then I guess word got out in high school, and then somebody told my counselor that I said that, and it was one of the best things that actually happened because I had a one-on-one talk with her, and she told me everybody will go in debt. Like, you will for sure get a job right after college because you will have that Berkeley title to your name. At that point, I didn't know how heavy that title of Berkeley was, because what's that called? The hierarchy of schools, like low rank, high rank. I didn't care as long as I went to school and I know what I wanted to do. I was completely fine with it. And from there on out, she convinced me, and I was gonna take the thousands of dollars of loans. And then a couple of days after I accepted Berkeley's offer, actually no, I was still indecisive because I was scared of debt. A couple of days after or during my thought process, I got the Dell scholarship, which was enough for me to, which is the laptop we're using now to Zoom. They gave me a scholarship that covered every dime that I needed for Berkeley. And that was what tailored me to my decision. Yeah, thank you. And I'm on a full ride scholarship to Berkeley studying sociology. In the beginning at Berkeley, I thought I was a big fish in a big lake, or in a small lake. I don't know how that saying goes. I thought I was up here. Right. But I kept forgetting that everybody who got accepted to Berkeley was also up here with me or higher. I had to remember where I came from. I didn't come from like a very well-rounded school. I came from a low-income community, a very community that's surrounded by gang, poverty, violence, etc. This was very different for me, so I had to adjust I adjusted differently. I was on academic probation my first semester of Berkeley. It was the scariest feeling of my life because I've never been at the bottom of anything. And I was at risk of being kicked out. It was, I dug myself into an abyss at that time couldn't take myself out of. I found resources. I spoke to Taz. I spoke to you about it. I told you that like I was scared. I didn't want to leave. Like this was an opportunity that I didn't want to get rid of. I didn't want to take for granted. I studied my butt off that second semester, and I pulled myself out of academic probation that second semester with a 4.0. It was the biggest like change of my life. That was my wake up call. I knew at that point I was like, this isn't high school anymore. Right. Yeah. I was more prepped than my first, and from there on out, I kept my grades up pretty well. I'm glad that I now take advantage of these resources, and if I see somebody who is struggling like me, I will pass on these resources to them because
amazing.
these resources are here for us to use. And if they're not advocated enough, I know that the school isn't doing its job. So here I am fulfilling that job for other students. I want everybody to succeed. We all deserve to be here. And these resources Berkeley has are meant to be used.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think like every Berkeley student that gets into school, they all come from diverse backgrounds and a lot of different, upbringings, different like school systems and different sort of like resources they had as like high schoolers and even before that as kids. And I think it's really important to, understand that everyone like at Berkeley is very capable of succeeding. And everyone, it takes time to adjust. And it seems like for you like at the beginning, I know we talked about this before, it was a little bit rough, but like in terms of growth, like if you compare like you now than before, you've grown a lot and you're succeeding a lot in all these different avenues, which is really amazing to see as your friend. And I think like taking a step back, also in freshman year, you were working really long hours. I think that's an important piece of context to add to that as well, was you were working your butt off. And like, as your friend, I was like, hey man, like you're overworking yourself. And I was really concerned. And also, I was also very like admirational about that. I was admiring that from you, your work ethic. That was something that stuck out during freshman fall semester.
The reason why I did that was because in high school, I never had a job and I was surrounded by a lot of kids in my high school who had after school jobs. I wanted to be in that plane too. Like I want to have pocket change. The reason I worked a lot was because I wanted to have extra money to like hang out with you guys. Cause like, I didn't want to be that one friend who didn't have money. And it's a balance. Yes, I did work hard and I worked a lot in terms of like making money, making my little hourly wage. But it took a toll on my academics. So I needed to restrain myself from working so much to shift my priorities a little bit more. And I did. I shifted my priorities most definitely, and it helped. It helped a lot, enormously. Like currently, because of the pandemic now, I don't work, and it's probably the most time I've been stress free because I don't have to worry about like making money anymore. And yeah, I'm really, really thankful for that.
Yeah. And like, I guess in general, how does your like mom and like your sisters feel about like you getting into Berkeley, like taking a step back, as well as like your experiences at Berkeley? They've seen you like grown so much. How have they reacted to like your experience at Berkeley? Because you've like done a lot of amazing things at Berkeley and grown a lot. I'm sure that they thought that was like a great choice for you. Were they pushing a lot for you to like choose Berkeley over like your other options?
I normally didn't speak to my sisters all that much about my college decision solely because like yes, I have five siblings, by the way, five older sisters. They all have their own lives. I normally spoke to like I spoke about my future to my mom and my mom only because everybody else was busy. I understood that everybody had their own lives. Some of my sisters have their own kids. So like me, it's kind of selfish of me to like pour on a bit of news or a bit of stress for them because they have other things to worry about. They have their family, they have other priorities, and I understand. So when I told my mom about it, she was excited. Yes, of course. She didn't know like the rigor of Berkeley. She didn't know like the the honor it was to be accepted at Berkeley. She thought any school was a great school, and I love that about my mom. She doesn't see any like there's
Hierarchy.
no status in anything.
Yeah,
there's no status in anything for her, which is great. When I told her, she was a little bit sad because I am from LA. Berkeley's 6 hours, 8 hours away from here. It's 300 miles, something like that, and it was gonna be the first time I was gonna be away from home. I'm with her 24/7. I was with her 24/7.
Yeah.
She was tailoring. She wanted me to tailor towards my happiness, and towards that, and towards what we could afford. So at the time when I told her, I'm like, "Oh, Mama, I'm gonna stay home a little bit longer. I'm gonna go to Cal State LA." She was happy that I wasn't gonna leave, but then when that scholarship hit, it kind of changed my life for the better. It did change my life for the better. I grew more independent. I'm still very, very close with my mom, like incredibly close. Right. But she wanted me to tailor my decision towards my happiness. And that's what I did. And I don't know how I would have turned out if I decided to go to a different school. I can't think about that enough. And it's kind of hard to think about it because you kind of beat yourself up a little bit when you like talk with yourself about a dilemma you once had. Like, what if I went here? What would I have been doing now? Or even if I would have like been as successful as I am right now. Not as successful. I'm not successful yet. I'm on that road, and it's getting more difficult. But learning these new skills to maintain my head up and keep pushing.
Yeah, I think you hit on like two great things. Like you like your relationship, your strong relationship with your mom, which seemed to help you grounded. Like she wanted you to, pursue happiness, and I think that's really great. I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I've talked to friends, and sometimes they don't have that type of relationship. So I'm really happy that you have that relationship, and I have a similar relationship with my mom where she's like, I want you to be happy, like in wherever you like want, whatever you want to do. So I think that's really great, and something that I've noticed from you that is something that is something I try to draw from is that you're really empathetic, and it seems to stem from like all these like experiences you had before college. What were some of the like key experiences you had that helped you like be a really empathetic person, someone who cares about others, like you mentioned, sharing resources with other people from similar backgrounds? Like, I guess what gave you that sort of like characteristic? Because not a lot of people have it, to be honest, in this world.
Yeah.
Like, what are those key experiences that led you to be a really empathetic and caring person?
That's a very difficult question because it branches a lot from everywhere. From a lot of things actually. One was actually being a part of a really, really big family. Yeah, I did say I was one of 6 kids. I do have 5 older sisters. My sisters have 3 of my sisters are actually married with their husbands, and each of them have their kids, and that's just a part of my immediate family, a part of my mom. Whenever we're together, it's just like a bunch of happy people. And one of us notices when one of us isn't feeling all that well, so I kind of like as a kid I absorbed that from my sisters, I absorbed that from my mom, like, what's wrong, what do you need? And on top of me just like harnessing that skill from my mom, it's not too much to ask, if that makes sense. If you can help somebody out a little bit, it's like smile.
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt. Like it shouldn't cost you that much. A lot of people, like, I don't know if it's a shade towards like STEM majors or anything, but I've noticed that a lot in like the people I meet in STEM are very unempathetic, unsympathetic. It doesn't hurt me. I'm just like, let me jot down that note to like not pour out like my feelings to somebody in that major, like in that field or anything, because it's actually very hard to track on where it came from besides my family. But I just want, as cheesy as it sounds,
yeah,
it's for everyone to be happy. I remember you asked me a question once, like, Jose, what would you rather do? Like, you can't pick either but one of these 2 options. You asked me if I would be the happiest person in the world, while everybody else has like very like unhappy experiences all the time, or would it be vice versa? Would you say unhappy for everybody else to be happy? And I told you like get back to me on that one because I didn't know how to like unravel that question. Then you asked the same question to Taz. She said she'd rather be the unhappy person surrounded by happiness because happiness is contagious. Right. That's another reason. I kept that forever. It's been 2 years and I still kept that.
And those deep conversations.
Yeah, and it sucks that I'm like, well, duh, she's right. Like, happiness is contagious, or like, I don't know. I don't want to be the buzzkill of anything. One, and 2, if we can all have a great time and be happy and be successful together, nobody is losing. That's the second reason. That's why I feel like my empathy, like where it came from and where it sticks. I don't think my empathy. At times I've been questioning my empathy. Like, do I care too much? Because a lot of the times it's me caring too much for people, and I don't care like enough about myself.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like sometimes, I think depending on like who you are as a person, I kind of like align myself in the sense that sometimes I care too much to the point where like sometimes that offends people. Like sometimes I like I come off as overbearing with like my family members. I'm like, hey, are you good? And like sometimes they're like, dude, I'm totally fine. Like stop asking me that. But and also on the flip side, like what you mentioned, like it's also important to focus on yourself. Like sometimes I think is a kind of a coping strategy for me. Sometimes when I'm struggling is that tend to like try to focus on others instead of focusing on myself. And then I realize like, oh man, like I'm like not happy right now and I need to focus on myself. And that's totally okay. Like you're not hurting anyone by like focusing on yourself and trying to like take a break and, you know, take some space for yourself. I think that's an important point you hit on is the importance of also working on yourself. As much as you can help others, you should also take some time for yourself as well.
Definitely. And to piggyback on that, I'm kind of like restraining myself from other, not like in a very negative way. It's me finally focusing on myself, and it's a little bit difficult to tailor myself to that.
Mm. And I think like in terms of like self-improvement, we talked about this a lot when we hang out, but I think like during college, there's like so many different like sort of, you know, resources and opportunities that you can, you know, take advantage of. And you mentioned this earlier in our conversation, but I guess like what were some of those opportunities that, you know, you thought were really helpful for, you know, our listeners who are also in the same situation as you, who are trying to, you know, figure out like what makes them happy at college? Like what were some of those resources that really helped you?
Therapy, 100% therapy. When I was out there for the first time on my own, I realized that I was missing a lot, and it helped talking to a professional because based on their experiences, I was able to finally realize that I wasn't happy.
Mm.
They kind of helped me. They kind of guided me to like what I wanted. I'm still looking, and I'm still going to therapy, but yeah, that's one of the main questions. And another one is surrounding yourself with successful people. If you like absorb that from other people, you'll be as successful, which is what I recommend others to do.
Mm. I totally agree with you on that point. I don't know if I told you this. I also went to therapy in high school. And I think in at least for the Asian American community, especially like around the parents, it's kind of like shunned upon in the sense that it's shown as like weakness, like in terms of like the old heads in the crowd. And that sort of shame affected me and prevented me from like getting therapy earlier. But I think like that whole process of, you know, talking to someone who's outside of your circle and getting, you know, help on some things like that are unexplainable, right? That's something that you just need someone else to listen to and hear you out and help you, you know, debug those like mental hurdles is really, really helpful. And there's no shame in it, right? Like, honestly, you're benefiting yourself in the long term, right? And you're bringing closure to yourself. And I hear a lot in Berkeley, like people like make, okay, I'm just gonna be honest. People make a lot of like depression, anxiety jokes, and they don't seek out therapy. And those are the people that I'm most worried about, are the people that, you know, aren't willing to, you know, get help when they actually need it, and instead have this defense mechanism of joking about it, which is totally a different tangent. But yeah, I think that's really important to bring up, is the importance of, you know, getting help when you need it. And I'm glad that we both did. And yeah, and a support system is really important too, like having a great group of friends. So yeah. But yeah, I think like what you brought up was really, really important. That's not talked a lot about. Um, and I guess like moving on to like another point, I guess having that strong support system, and once you felt better about yourself, and you mentioned you got like good grades and you found academic success, and also I know you like found professional success as well. um I guess like what next steps are you looking forward to now that you are in a much better position, and it seems like you have a good sense of where you're at in college and what goals you have laid out? Like, what's next for you?
Securing an internship.
Mhm.
That's extremely difficult. I remember you talking about it when we were quote unquote little, when we were freshmen in college.
Yeah.
That you can secure an internship like ASAP, especially for your major. And I didn't understand that at the time because like it was like what, probably like week 4, week 5 that we were in school, and then I just overhear you and Tess talking about like CS internships. I'm like, why is he, like mentally taking a mental note? I'm like, why is he even talking about that? It's only week 5. Like still we have 7 more semesters to come, like to approach. I don't know how important that was back then. Now I'm a junior. Look, well, technically a sophomore. I did tell you that I was going to take an extra year to like better my position, to make myself a little bit more well-rounded. That's what my next step is, finding an internship. And I seek mentorship from a lot of professionals that I look up to, which is a really is something you're gonna piggyback off next. It's my fraternity. I seek a lot of mentorship from very successful. Yes, we are called fraternity brothers, but we say it in Spanish like hermanos. And I seek a lot of help from them because they've experienced probably possibly the same or a little bit more of um I forgot the term, it's on the tip of my tongue, but they've experienced more than I have. And if I can ask them questions on like what are their first steps, what obstacles to avoid, that is like the greatest thing for me at the moment. So that's my next step right now, seeking mentorship from people who have careers and professions in the career I want to achieve, which is at the moment, which is wealth management. It's kind of different hearing that from a non-STEM major than me as like a Haas business school major, if I'm saying that right. Pardon my apologies, everybody, if I butcher the name of the school, but that's what's next in my life right now, an internship. Hopefully, still seeking for one.
Gotcha. And I guess like leaning on like your brotherhood and leaning on the older members of your fraternity must have been like really helpful. I guess what made you want to pursue the area of like wealth management? Like what got you interested around that field?
It stemmed from my personal background of not being financially stable when I was little. I saw my mom work extremely hard, and I based our experiences on like because of our situations. And I wanted to avoid that for my future and the future of my mom and possibly the future of my kids. But kids are like a different topic, like 10, maybe, yeah, 10, 15 years from now, hopefully. But yeah, I wanted to have what my mom wanted for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's super sweet. Yeah, that's really great. And I think like having that support system is really helpful for, preparing for those opportunities. And yeah, I'm super excited for you. I know that you're really like excited about this, and I've known you've done a lot of work to, prepare yourself for getting those types of internships. But yeah, I guess like talking a little bit more about, I guess, Berkeley in general, like balancing all those like academics as well as like the professional side of things, as well as like work. How do you balance it all? How do you find like a good rhythm for yourself? I know you go on like a lot of runs, right?
Yes.
Like how do you manage all these different things you have to juggle at Berkeley?
Honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, it's just me using Google Calendar, me using a checklist. That's easy for me. Other people like do everything digitally, like with an iPad Pro or something. I stick to notebook and paper and Google Calendar because it's that simple for me. It's probably different for everybody else. But how do I stick to my routine? I actually don't have a routine at all. Like when we're in school, it's just whatever is due the closest, not whatever is due first, because to me, whatever is due first sounds like I'm doing stuff last minute, and I try to avoid that. I really try to avoid that. It does happen sometimes, but I turn my priorities to like what is due first, read a little bit, eat. I like to cook. I do like to run. Yeah, simple. It's
Yeah.
nothing. It's not a rocket science. Still learning a lot about myself and getting off my phone. I've decided like not to upgrade anymore up until it's necessary. I remember when I was in high school, everybody was super materialistic, especially me. I was incredibly materialistic. I had to have like enough money to buy branded shoes. If not, you were bullied. I had to have enough money to have like better clothes. If not, you were bullied. I wanted to like avoid that. But now in college, it's as adults, you and I, none of that matters anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of glad it doesn't matter. And if I can't upgrade, I don't have anything to worry about. If I'm upgrading, I have to keep up with everything, and it's just an extra step to keep up with everything. And I want to slow down, 200%. Yeah.
That's totally fair. I always made jokes about. I remember when you got AirPods, and I just couldn't stop cracking jokes about it. I was like, bro, why did you just get AirPods, bro?
I was
Like,
scammed into
huge
getting.
flex.
I was scammed in getting AirPods. I completely forgot that iPhones came with earbuds. And then when I opened the box, I'm like, oh damn, I forgot. Because it's been so long since I've had an iPhone. But yeah, I've had that phone for about 3 years now. Perfectly
Yeah.
working phone. Only downside is I have to charge it every now and then. I have to be next to a bed,
Right.
so that's it.
The battery is probably like aging.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to hear about that, like the materialistic side. Like I guess like in high school, I guess image matters a lot more. I guess I had a similar experience in the sense that like in high school, I feel like I cared a lot more about what people thought about me, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like I thought I had to wear like a fire fit every day, and then also like I had to be like really smart because that was like my image. Like I wanted to seem smart and I also wanted to look good. Um, and now in like college, I'm just like I wear sweatpants. I'm just chilling. I'm like, hey, I just need to, do well in my classes and graduate. It's my goal. But
Yeah. That's a
I guess
move.
like I guess like for you, how like what are the differences in terms of culture from like your high school experience in like LA versus now in Berkeley, where it's much more different. Like people are, I feel like a lot different than the people that you were with in high school.
It's basically it's basically a lot about what you just said. In high school when we were young, we cared about the wrong things at the time because we didn't have to worry about anything at the time. We were still kids. Like our parents like had it in the bag, or for those who had parents, or for yeah, we had different priorities at the time. Um, for now in college, I'm on my own a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah, mostly on my own. So I kind of had to like knock down a bit of what didn't matter, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, in terms of like responsibilities and developing like more independence in college, what were some things that were helpful for, like becoming self-sufficient in college? Did you just learn it the hard way and you just like uh learn it as you go? Like what are like some tips you have for college students to, I guess manage all these different priorities, whether it's like financial stuff, like, oh, how do I manage my personal like finance, or like other things, smaller things like, oh, cooking, laundry, like finding apartments. How do you figure all of that sort of things, like all those responsibilities that are now
Some of it,
up to you?
some of it I learned the hard way. Let's start with finances. It's very common in like when you don't come from a very like big financial upbringing. When it's very common for me anyway that when you have an abundance of money or a random like entrance of money, for example, let's put $1,000 into this. High school Jose never had $1,000. College me did have $1,000. I blew it up on like what did I blow it up on? Clothes I don't even wear. I swear. I probably spent my first 4 months of college. I probably spent like $900, half of it on clothes. And remember that iPad I got? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I gave it to my nephew. Like that's how bad it is. I never used it. That's the one advice. Like, be financially woke or some whatever people call it nowadays. don't buy things you don't need. Make sure you use everything to its last day. Like for a cell phone, use it until like literally a car runs it over. If it can call and text, that's what you need it for. Internet is just a plus. You have a laptop at home. A lot of kids have laptops anyway. Cooking, buying out is expensive.
Yeah, Uber eating is not it. Costs a lot of money.
Like of what a Chipotle burrito costs $8. If you want to Uber Eats it, it's like $19. Like there's a service fee, a small cart fee. Yeah. What else? Finding an apartment. That one was very difficult for me because, like I said, those kinds of things were adult things. But after my freshman year, I sought out four of my closest friends. We got an apartment together extremely early in the game because we don't want to be homeless at Berkeley because the housing crisis is real. Some students are left with no home. Some students live in their cars. Some students couch surf. I don't want to do that. Like, I didn't. So I got my first apartment like in March 2019, and I signed a 1-year lease. Yeah.
I remember
I had to start paying for that apartment.
Well, you got a hella good deal. You got a really good deal on that one.
Yes, I did. It was the greatest. Woo! Yeah, I remember our little housewarming party with no furniture.
Yeah. And we played Mario Kart at your apartment, and then we I forget, did we cook something? I don't know. We ordered pizza or something.
We made brownies and we ordered
brownies.
Pizza.
Yeah, that was it. It was kind of ratchet. Yeah, it was nothing in the house, and we were just sitting on the floor, and then we had a projector. I think like Taz's projector to play Mario Kart.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was
that was so fun.
That was like almost 2 years ago. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
it
was crazy.
Yeah, kind of bittersweet, and the blessing in disguise when the pandemic hit last March. That was when my lease was up. So I was one of the very lucky ones to like hop out. Like that's it. My contract is over. I don't have to stay anywhere.
Right.
While others like signed till August and had to stay. And then subleasing was very difficult to find, especially now. Nobody wants to pay for a place they don't want to be at. Yeah, that's probably. Oh, and don't get a credit card. Nobody, like, unless you know the circumstances of interest and APR and all that. Don't get a credit card until you're ready, or until you have like a good amount of money backed up, because that was me. I was making the minimum payments at the time. I had like
do the same.
I had like $1,200 in credit card debt, and I was making my little $25 minimum payment a month, and then interest was like,
dude, it's fat. Dude, it's so high. They rip you. Okay, they rip you off. Like it's 25% or something ridiculous. Like, so annoying.
Yeah, so avoid that at all costs. Yeah, and if you can't buy something twice, don't buy it. That's what I learned. I read it somewhere, I think on a Snapple bottle or something, on a bottle cap. If you can't buy something twice, you can't afford it. So hopefully that's fixing with everybody. And I abide by that a lot, because I don't want to stay broke, and I want to have enough money for my next meal.
That's fair. And I guess like that sort of mindset has been really helpful for you, and also like for me, like personal finance, I had to learn it the hard way as well. Like you mentioned, like the interest stuff, I didn't know that was a thing, and I was just making those $25 payments in Bank of America, and I was like, good, but yeah, it really adds up. And then I called the bank, I was like, what is this? And then I realized like I have to stay on top of it. Like you can't do it through automatic payments, so I have to manually. I just set a calendar reminder now to pay in full. But yeah, credit cards are tricky. Definitely do not play around with that stuff. And can hurt your credit score too early on. So don't play around as a college student with all that credit.
And
but
like we research
do research,
these options, because like let's say for example, some students like need a laptop when it's time for school. There are some credit cards that like kind of pay you if you like reach a certain limit. I'm a sucker for those deals. Like recently I signed up for the Chase credit card around Christmas time. If you spend $500, you're given like I think $250 back instantly.
Right. Yeah.
And I took advantage. I signed up for that credit card. I was immediately approved, and that's what I did. That's what I did my Christmas shopping with, and kind of spend 50%, give or take. But yeah, do research like that, but only when it's necessary. I feel like I don't know if Christmas shopping was a qualification for getting a credit card, but I save money, so yeah.
Exactly. It's all about saving money. And I guess in general, when you are like in college and you're saving all this money, what has been helpful for, like making sure you have enough? Do you have like a spreadsheet, or like how do you save money like really effectively as a college student? And you were like super young too. Like how are you able to like save up money effectively?
For me, it's just relying and retracing your step back to your goals. Like for me, I told you this. I wanted to buy a house like right after college, or after I secured a job right after college, immediately, because I don't want to be homeless. California housing has gotten up dramatically and ridiculously, but it's honestly the best place to live. I love California.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I just remember what my priorities are, and I keep it pushing. I keep it going. Um, I know that I set a budget for myself every couple weeks. Like, oh, my grocery budget this week is for bi-weekly is, it depends on what I make. For example, if I wanted to make salmon one week, I pull out an extra like $30 for the budget, because salmon is expensive because there's a lot of ingredients to it. But it's not. I typically spend about maybe $38 to $50 bi-weekly for groceries. So between 74 to $100 a month on groceries, and I stick to that budget. I eat the same thing. I eat tomato soup. I eat sandwiches. I don't eat ramen. Blessedly, I don't like packaged ramen all that much
Yeah.
unless it's necessary. I do have some. Like if I ever crave it, probably like
Yeah, just in case.
once a month, honestly. What else do I eat lentils. I eat Chipotle every now and then. I make my own Chipotle back in my apartment. Um, yeah, and as for other things like bills and my home payments, it's all covered by my full ride, which I'm perfectly fine with. So nothing is really coming out of my pocket, and whatever like is saved over, I put that in my market savings account. Great savings account. You get like 1% APY. It's great. Other than that, I just keep it pushing. If I can get scholarship or two throughout the year, I save probably like what 5% of it. If it's $1,000, 5% of 1,000 is $50, right? Give or take. Yeah, I keep that for myself. For like, oh, here, congratulations to myself, you earned Chipotle. The other 950 goes into the bank because I really don't need it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good mindset. Yeah, they're like understand like, oh, you don't need it, and if you save it, it'll like compound eventually. Like with that 1%, it will like keep on compounding, and it'll grow into a nice little sum of money for buying a house
Yeah.
eventually. For your case, right? Which is really exciting. When you
yeah.
told me that goal, I was like, good for you. That is very audacious, but I respect it. It's super cool.
Thank you.
I guess something that I wanted to like end off with was talking a little bit more about I guess like mentorship and like also being mentored, right? You mentioned that you've been mentored as part of your fraternity with like the older members giving you a lot of great advice. And also I know from talking with you that you mentored a lot of high school students while you're working at USC and like help, point them in the right direction. And I know that you were part of a program, I think, where you mentored some kids as well during your time at Berkeley. I'm curious to hear more about your experiences from both sides of things. Like, what do you think is the most helpful piece of advice to give to, I guess, younger kids or high school students who might be a little bit on the wrong path or a little bit misguided or a little bit lost? Like, what are some like pieces of advice you would give to them to, I guess, find their way in their world, find their, happiness?
For
What
younger
are some?
individuals,
Mhm.
I'd like to tell them to stop and smell the roses, as cheesy as that sounds, because you do have time. At the time where I thought I didn't have time, I wasn't worried as much as what I'm worried about right now. Um, and another advice is trial and error. Try a lot of things. If you don't like it, then okay, at least you've gained that experience. Put that on your resume, tailor that to like put that on your back, and keep it pushing. Like find something else that you're gonna like. I remember, like I said, I wanted to go to Irvine for pre med. didn't get into Irvine. Let's try Berkeley. Berkeley's STEM courses are rigorous. Like I can't express that enough. And I found out that STEM wasn't for me that way, so then I switched into a social science. I like social science, and then I wanted to tailor myself into something else, which is why I chose media studies. Just different paths. Like even though none of those are tailored to what I want to do when I'm older, which is wealth management, they're just helping me out in the long run. I like working with people. I like TV. That's tailor what you love to your hobby. That's where I want to leave off with mentorship. Always ask for help. Make sure you stop smell the roses and appreciate the time you have left to think about what you want to do. Don't rush yourself, because rushing yourself, like you're not going to enjoy the experience as much, and that's extremely important. I want to enjoy my last couple of years of undergrad while I have time, because after that, it's just like we got to put on our big boy shoes and start working.
Yeah. I think like taking your time is really important. There's no need to like rush things. And oftentimes when I've rushed things, it sometimes does not result in something like great, like whether it's in terms of quality or a positive outcome. It's always great to like take things slowly, whether it's like in your classes, right? Like understanding material, like you don't have to learn it in one day. It takes like a while to, you know, build on top of concepts and stuff like that. Or in terms of like your career goals, right? You want to immediately become like the best wealth manager in the world, right? You have to take concrete steps, right? And you're doing that with like, you know, exploring those two different areas like sociology and media studies, taking up those responsibilities in your fraternity, right? And doing a bunch of like cool stuff all around, which is really awesome. So I think that's a really great piece of advice to students. I guess to end it off, do you have anything to plug? I know you're very popular on the social media. You had that tweet that got 100K likes or something, right?
300K likes.
300K, my bad. 300K likes. All right.
It was just a retweet, but if you want to add me on social media, I only use Instagram and Twitter. I'll probably do TikTok in the future, but handles are for Instagram is at Cisneros, Cisnjo, and for Twitter it's Cisneros, Cisneros SSSSS. That's about it. 6 S's at the end.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, you know, stopping by and being a guest for the 7th episode of the Beyond podcast. Really great, you know, hearing all your experiences, and as you know, as one of your friends, it's always great talking with you and like learning from you and having these like really, you know, deep and challenging conversations, which I think are helpful. So yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.